And then let's just move on. There's some listing agents, James, that are nervous about taking lenders from other states. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, they are, and they should be, because you want to be sure that you have that you get the deal done. I mean, there's different states have different ways that loans are closed. Some close in title companies, some close with attorneys.
I personally have had a bad experience with a loan officer from California trying to close a deal in Texas, because over there they have escrow and over here we have title companies, and it was just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, some different fees will show up at times if you don't know the state specific fees or what you can charge. Some fees you can call it a certain thing. To other states you got to call it something else. So it's key to know what those things are, and if you don't know, you can be in some trouble.
The other thing is that I actually had a buyer from California wanting to buy here in Texas, and I told her, hey, it's a very competitive market right now, but you may want to think about getting a local lender, because as a listing agent, people are not going to really want to do business with an outside lender, especially.
Yeah, and some banks have got this central lending system.
She did not listen to me. The listing agent called me when we put an offer on a property, and he says, hey, we like your client's offer, but can she get a local lender? She refused. She actually had her lender call the listing agent, try to persuade him to use her. And like me, he said, yeah, sure. And then it's like, let's go with this other deal, because you want to make sure you represent your seller's best interest and get that property closed, and can't take a risk on someone that may not know the rules,
We've had clients that have actually taken a lower offer because they've worked with a lender that they know that can get the deal done, like James. And they've actually gone with a lower offer because they know they're not wasting nobody's time, and they can go ahead and get that deal closed.
Yeah.
Because the longer it goes through the contract process, then the more pressure it puts on the seller, especially in this market when they've got to find another house. This is, at the moment, we're in a position which is all the way through America. I mean, it's not specific to Houston.
Right.
In some cities, it's worse than others. And so we've had instances the last 3 months where we sold a house in, I believe it was North Houston. I believe it was in the Woodlands area. We sold the house. They were moving to North Carolina, and they've extended it twice now, and they can't find a house in North Carolina.
Yeah. It's everywhere right now.
And so the pressure's on the seller to move out, so it's just, James calls it the domino effect.
Yes.
And that's really what we're in at the moment is, a domino effect. And what do you think about some of the banks that have a central lending system? I personally can't stand it, James, because you never speak to the same person twice.
Well, I think that's the biggest. It's really the customer experience is a little different. When you're dealing with someone that you deal with one-on-one, you kind of have a conversation. You don't have to repeat a whole bunch of stuff all over again. There's nothing more frustrating.
Repeat the same story over and over.
Oh my goodness! They transfer in, and you got to say the same thing. It's like, oh my, there's no notes in the system.
Right,
what
exactly.
I talked about.
I hate that.
Yeah, so it's key to be able to have someone that you can kind of one-on-one, but they have these. Sometimes they call them groups or pods or whatever that they kind of work the deal. Not knocking any of it, but it can be frustrating to a customer because somebody will take the application, somebody will input it, into the system for the processing, and then the processing does this, and you're talking to all these different people,
right?
And you can't really kind of line it all
it's
up.
It's been very frustrating for the clients, especially first-time home buyers, where they don't know the process and they're going through the whole process. And then they've decided to work with one of the banks where they've gone in there, they've spoken to the personal banker, and then they're given a reference number, and they said, well, okay, for further questions, call this 800 number and just pull up the reference, and they'll pull up your file. And then to look at the actual operational challenges to that is, well, okay, fax your docs to, this, well, okay, but we need more docs on your W-2s, or we need, the fifth page of your tax return, missed out. So can you fax it again? And it just becomes so convoluted and so complicated. I just don't think it's a good experience for a first-time home buyer to go through that.
Right.
And sometimes, like you said with the builder, Lewis, people think that we're making money off James or whatever, but we're not. I mean, it's as simple as that. We are not. But we're doing it because we use James, because James, if
can get it closed,
he gets it closed, and at the same time, if I refer somebody to something, I'm putting my trust in the likes of James or the likes of Lewis. Just like that client called up, like I told you about, wants to sell a house in spring and gave you nothing but headaches. But that's just the way it is. I mean, if you can't take on the headaches, then perhaps you're in the wrong business. Exactly. And I know you never complained about it, but I felt bad about it, to be perfectly honest, Lewis. But I know you never complained.
That was a good experience. I'm thinking actually calling her, seeing if she wants to sell her house again.
Because it's still not sold.
It's still not sold, right? That's it. That's the interesting part about the business, is that you have all these sellers thinking that it's easy to sell, or why hire an agent? I was actually talking to a seller trying to sell a lot over here by the Greater Heights area, right off of 610. And I told him, I was like, hey, I could sell your house. I could sell your property. How much you're looking to sell it for? And he gave me a number, and I looked around. And I was like, yep, I can get that. The market was there. The numbers were there. It made sense. And I told him, hire me. I can get it sold for you. He didn't hire me that year. Kept on calling him throughout the next 4 years. He would never hire me. He never hired me. He finally sold it after 4 years. And I called him back and I said, hey, congratulations, you got your deal sold, but I know that you didn't want to pay me, and that's the reason why you didn't hire me. You wanted to save that money, but you're paying about $10,000 every year in property taxes. Took you 4 years, that's $40,000, that you ended up paying. So you're still going to pay. You could have paid an agent. You could have got it sold faster within that first year. And imagine what the opportunities you could have had that year. Or, you paid the government. Either way, you paid.
But there's a holding cost on the property.
There is a holding cost. And for him, it was like $40,000 property taxes.
And that. Especially, some sellers are really motivated to sell their property in December. Why is that? Because property taxes are due December 31st. So if you've got an agent that really hasn't got a strategy, that's not trained, that knows that, but an agent that really knows that, that they're using that,
right?
So a buyer can get a better deal.